I suppose, like for most swimmers, it started when I was young. I learned to swim, although that was very much about survival at that point. It wasn't necessarily about, being able to be a competitive swimmer. And so I was never really part of any swim clubs or anything like that, but I would go along to lane swimming sessions with my mum. And I didn't really do much swimming then as a teenager. It'd be, again, fun sort of things. But through my teenage years, my mum had cancer a number of times. And so when I then came to A levels, I'd, had all this sort of pent up trauma, I guess. And I was then having to make some very big decisions about the life ahead of me. And I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with myself. So I actually turned to the pool at that point, and I was swimming quite a lot once I was able to drive and get myself to the swimming pool quite easily. And I was swimming not too far, but I was just swimming just to get some headspace.
We're working together, you and I, on some ideas, and in particular, you've committed yourself bravely to doing this UltraEbre event, which is in Spain, about an hour and a half south of Barcelona, in a lovely river called Ebro. So what I've been talking to other swimmers is about what they've achieved already on that swim, but you haven't done the swim yet. So we're going to look at the other side of the coin, your preparation, your thoughts about it at this early stage, and to give people a sense of what it's about, if they want to join. What are your thoughts at the moment about preparation and planning and getting yourself ready for this 33-kilometer river swim?
So there's quite a few thoughts that I've already had and that I've been discussing with my coach. And for sure, the main one that we're actually trying to work on at the moment is getting faster, if only because there's a cutoff of 8 hours. So certainly making sure that I'm going to be able to fit under that cutoff is the main thing, because there's no point in sort of swimming for 8 hours for it to not come to fruition at the end. I've been taking a look at the route, and whilst the start of it is very much supported by the flow of the river, towards the end you're also battling the tide from the sea. So certainly another reason to try and swim just that little bit faster is to try and make sure that I can beat that as well, so I'm not having to work so hard at the end. Because I've had a number of swims now. My English Channel swim was one. I swam Gdynia to Hell, which is about 18 kilometers rather, in the Baltic Sea on the Polish coast. And again, those were ones where at the end it was like, hey, now you need to push. Despite the fact for Gdynia to Hell, I'd been swimming for 7 hours at that point. For for the English Channel, I'd been swimming for 14 hours. And then they say, oh, now you need to push. And I think, wow, have I not? Did that not count? Have I not already been pushing for that far already? So making sure I'm better prepared for something like that certainly is coming to mind. There's also some other elements. So my partner is going to be kayaking for me, and he can kayak, but I don't know how, he's not particularly familiar with it on an 8-hour stint. So making sure that he's going to be prepared, and I'm going to sort of be encouraging him some training towards that as well, certainly. So those are some of the things. Probably also hydration, because I've done a number of swims that are shorter in hot countries. So it was really, the water was about 24 degrees Celsius in the water this year when I swam Lake Annecy in France, and that was gorgeous, but I had to make sure that I was then hydrating well enough for that swim. It was only 15 kilometers though, so for this one, making sure that if it's warm that I'm going to be able to continue going for that long and stay hydrated enough in that time as well. Because I'm the English Channel, I did it in June 2024. That was cold. I got in and it was 13 degrees when I first started, and it warmed up to 15. So I'm actually better prepared with my feeding strategy in colder temperatures. So adapting that is going to be one of the key things as well.
When you do your long swims and some of the things you've talked about, when you hit that, and I've asked this question of a few people, they've all got different answers. When you hit the barrier, or when you hit a point where everything is telling you to stop, or your body and your mind saying, what are you doing? I'm done in. What is the method you might use or think about to get through that particular difficult one and continue stroking to the end?
That's a really interesting question, because I think actually, because I've hit that before, where I've thought, why do I do this to myself? What am I doing? Is this meant to be fun? I've paid for the luxury of this, and that's no small feat for some of the swims like the English Channel. But at no point do I say I'm going to get out. And that, don't get me wrong, I've had swims where I've been in immense pain and had to stop. So there was a 12-hour overnight swim that I did in a Boundary Water Park in Cheshire, and it's like every hour on the hour for 1 hour. No, for 1 mile you do a swim. And you come out, and my issue there was migraines, and so I had to sort of, I took paracetamol, took ibuprofen, nothing was helping, and then a light was shining on the water. Somebody was, I think they were looking for a specific person, but it hit my eyes just as I was sighting, and I just thought, I'm either going to I think I might throw up, so I'm going to get out and call it a night, because that was a training swim at that point. But I've not really had it where I've been on the swim. And actually, I found the English Channel such, in comparison to all the other training swims I did, because I really hated one overnight swim I did in Windermere, because again, I had flashing lights on the back of me, and it was good information to have because we were able to adapt for the actual English Channel swim. But on the English Channel swim, it felt like a relief, because I was like, I'm finally doing this. It's taken so long to get here, and look at me, I'm actually doing it. But when I come to those moments where I do think, wow, why am I doing this? I'm meant to find this fun. This doesn't feel fun right now. I always break it down. So you're swimming to the next feed, and you think about the feed you're going to get. Certainly on the English Channel, one of the big problems I had was like salt mouth, and I hated the taste of the salt. So I actually had like a watered down mouthwash with every feed, so I could use some of that to wash away some of the salt, and that would last for about 5 minutes before it was then feeling all salty again. So finding those comforts along the way and making sure you're interspersing them. Sometimes it could be a nice feed. Some people like, it'll be like a treat of chocolate once every few hours or something. But yeah, and also then distracting your mind and having strategies for when you do hit that moment. So sometimes I'll do like an A to Z list of something, and I have to then, list. I've my coach actually lists people she doesn't like, A to Z. I try to list people I'm thankful for and who've helped me on that journey. So we have very different perspectives. I try to almost think like toxic positivity in those stages, but sometimes people just want to be in the pits and do that. I've sometimes watched movies in my head. I've watched Legally Blonde in my head, and there was a specific song I couldn't remember, so I was stuck for about what felt like 20 minutes just thinking, what is that song that goes with this scene? And you're tricking yourself. It's almost like you're playing with a toddler or something. What can you do to distract them in that process? And you've kind of got to baby yourself like that, which I think, you do just have to have those strategies and prepare for them and prepare for that boredom. So I don't train with music on or anything like that. It's literally, I was, especially in the last sort of year or so, I've been doing quite a lot of 10-15 kilometer swims, but in a pool. And that is so dull because you're just looking at tiles all the time. So by the time you can see fish and reeds, it's quite exciting, actually.